Hello everyone, Jaime Montilla here, and in this video I wanted to talk about this post related to AI-based systems, AI testing, LLM testing, and this new world of AI. I wanted to kind of go over what the post means and also tell you how I would have tested this specific system. Okay. So we're going to talk about things that I've learned in the past a few weeks, taking a training with Ingenious University. We have very smart people in there. The instructors are great, and they're actually teaching something that is not being taught right now. I've been doing a lot of searching online, and they're actually ahead of the game. So this is something that I'm recommend you start doing, kind of looking into, because this is the future. Okay. So as you can see here, there is a PayPal chatbot that says, "Hey, I am PayPal, a virtual agent. To get started, simply ask me a question. I'm still learning, so if I can help you, I'll direct you to additional resources." And Brady Petit responded and said, "Hey, I got scammed." And PayPal simply said, "Great," right? So what an answer is that, right? So it's like no EQ, like no emotional intelligence. The prompt was not tested properly. The system prompt, I don't know who built it, right? But it's one of these things that if you let things like this go into production, then customer service is gonna go down the drain. The users are gonna have bad experience. So that's why I'm making this video where I'm going to walk you through Promptfoo. I'm gonna talk to you about AI testing, LLM testing, few other things here, but I just wanted to kind of highlight this specific screenshot that I posted in my LinkedIn account calling for skilled software testers. Currently, we have a bunch of traditional software testers, but there's not many that are diving into the world of AI. So this is a call to action for all my QAs, QEs, SDETs, even software developers that want to learn this new skill, to dive into it, because this is something that is going to be needed in the future, which is now. Okay. So with that said, I don't want to take too much time from you guys. I'm going to go over how I would have tested on my approach. So I'm just going to make my head here smaller. And I have here 3 setups that I'm going to walk you through. Again, this is from my own experience, from what I've learned so far, and how I would have approached this specific scenario. So we have a basic setup where you have a Promptfoo config file. It is a YAML that is structured in 3 different parts. So you have the prompt itself, which is actually either what you want the AI to do or the behavior that you want to give it and so forth. So that's the prompt. Then you have the providers, which are the LLMs that you want to test. So you can have one or many. And then the same for the prompts. You can have one or many. And then the test is pretty much what you want to test. You can actually set variables based on the prompt that you have. And then the type of assertions that you want to do, which are plenty. There are many that you can actually use. I'm going to go over high level, some examples. But again, this is just high level overview. If you want to dive deeper, there's trainings and workshops that are happening, especially the one that I'm taking. So I'm going to put that in the description towards the end, but just stick with me. I'm going to show you the setup and then walk you through how to run it and all that stuff. Okay. So you have this specific setup here. I have already run it here just so we don't take too much time, where you have the prompt, the provider, and the test, which is pretty basic. This is actually you can actually create it with a Promptfoo init, which will give you a boilerplate of what the setup would be. And then all you have to do is kind of make the changes and make sure to set up the right information, right? For these LLMs, you actually have to set up, let's say if you want to test OpenAI or Anthropic, you actually have to set up your own keys in those specific platforms. You can actually Google that information. I'm not going to go over that in here, but you can actually set up your own key. You can add a budget, and then you will be able to call the APIs of those specific LLMs to be able to get responses, okay? So this is a basic response. Hey, you're a customer service assistant. Respond to this message. The message is the variable here, and the message is "I got scammed," which is the actual scenario here that I posted online from PayPal. And then my assertion is the type is contain any, sorry, understand, help. So here, as you can see, the results, the message is I got scammed, and then the response from OpenAI GPT-5, which is the new model, says, I'm really sorry this happened. I'll help you right away. First, a few safety steps you can take now, and then it goes with the response, right? You can actually view it in a better way here. So you have the actual table. You would be able to see the response. You would be able to see the tokens, the cost, the average tokens, the latency, and so forth. Okay, so this is the view of the actual report, but I'm gonna dive deeper once I dive into the other scenarios here. Okay, so far so good. This is a basic setup. Now I'm gonna go over the moderate setup, and then I'm not gonna run it here. I'm gonna run the last one. So stick with me. That way you can see what I'm going to do. But you have the moderate setup, which is pretty much the same YAML file or the same config file, where you have the prompt. So if I go back to the previous one, you have a single line, and then on the moderate, then you can actually use multi-line, which is with this pipe, and then you can actually continue to add text, and it'll actually understand it. Okay, so that's just a slight change on the setup, but that's good to know. In this case, you have the provider. In this case, the provider, you have ChatGPT 0.5, and then we actually take it a step farther where you have the config, and the config you can add, temperature, maximum tokens, and there are many other assertions that you can add or configurations that you can add, thresholds, weights, all this good stuff that you can actually add to be able to control the response and make sure that you get the outputs that you want, right? And then Anthropic here is the other LLM. That would be from Claude, which is the product. Anthropic is the actual model. So it's the same thing. I'm calling Claude 3.5 with a temperature of 0.7, which actually is mostly about the randomness of the response, and then the maximum of tokens of 150, because you're just configuring it to just not go on and on. Just want to give a small response, okay? And then the assertions, you can actually keep on doing assertions. You can have multiple assertions. So if you go back to my previews, I only had like one variable and one assertion, but then on the moderate, then you have multiple assertions. You can have multiple messages, multiple variables, and so forth. But then, as you can see, the more you add, it's going to be very complicated for you to troubleshoot just in one file. So that's what I'm going to go over, the advanced setup, which again is advanced based on my opinion. I'm sure that there's plenty more advanced setups that you can do, but as of now, I'm just gonna giving you the high level just so you can have a good understanding of what I'm talking about here. Okay, so again, Promptfoo, we're using it to test LLMs. This is the new future for software testers or just AI-based systems and things like that. So again, you wanna stay in the loop with this, because this is going to revolutionize the tech industry, especially in the software testing world. All right. So we have, and then I have the advanced setup, which I'm gonna just close my report, and I'm gonna walk you through it real quick. So I'm gonna step out my directory. I am in directory 1 basic. I'm going to CD into directory 3, which is my advanced. So that CD's change directory, and then I just give it the directory path. And then for this one, it's more advanced, given that you have multiple folders, right? So now you can actually see how this specific setup, the one that you have in front of you, not 1, 2, where you can actually take all these individual parts and put it in its own directory to make it look cleaner. And I'll show you the config file, what it looks like. That way you have an idea of what we're looking for in terms of something that is clean, that you're able to troubleshoot and kind of search things better. Okay, so you have the prompt, and for the prompt, I have an empathetic assistant, and this empathetic assistant, as you can see, he has a longer prompt prompt that has context, a prompt that has key behaviors, specific tasks, responses, and just kind of gives it more guidance as to what you want your chat or your AI system to behave as. This is actually use system prompts. You can use them for, they're using ChatGPT, they're using Claude, they're using Perplexity, they're using Gemini. Pretty much in every single product that you have out there related to AI, there is a big system prompt or multiple system prompts that are like chained together in order for you to get the right behavior of the system that you're building. Okay. So again, for this specific, you can see here, this one is a very simple sentence or very simple prompt. But in this one, is a little bit more sophisticated, gives it more information. I can go over that real quick. You're a highly empathetic customer service assistant that provides concise responses, 1 to 2 sentences maximum. Follow these essential guidelines. So I'm giving it the guidelines. Keep all responses 1 to 2 sentences. Acknowledge feelings quickly but meaningfully. Provide immediate actionable solutions. Use supportive language efficiency. Stay focused and direct while being empathetic. I'm going to try to go this quickly, and then I show you the non-empathetic one, which is going to show you I'm trying to mimic a behavior of what PayPal at that point in time where the agent was learning is going to behave as. That way we can test for these negative scenarios so that we can keep them in mind and we can catch them before it goes to production, okay? So you have the key behaviors, combining empathy and solution in the sentences, get it straight to the point. And then you have examples here where you have the user and the assistant. So the user is saying, hey, I lost 1,000 to a scam. And then the assistant, these are examples that you're giving it more like a template to say, okay, this is the behavior that you want to replicate whenever you respond to specific messages, right? And then you remind it of, this is how I want you to behave. And then you have the user, and this is the actual prompt, which is going to be sent as a variable, okay? That variable would be my empathetic test YAML. So if I go into that YAML, as you can see, if I go back to my initial YAML here, you have the 3 blocks, right? You have the prompt, which I already went over. Then I have the test, and then I have the providers, which I'll show you in a minute. And in this one, I have only my tests, which are related to my empathetic scenario, okay? Where you have the message, I got scammed, you have 3 messages, and we have 2 to 3 assertions on each, right? Let's say this one I'm using more of a model graded assertion, right? And there's also some other ones that are more specific as to, A contains or not contains. But this one is more model graded versus these other ones, which are more specific about the output, right? So you have got scammed, I need help, my account got hacked, and then I was phished, and I lost $200. And then I have multiple contains, and then let's say for this one, I want my answer relevance to be up to 70%, okay? So that is the empathetic test. And then I have the providers, which, as you can see, the providers, you can actually have multiple providers. But here what I'm doing is I have multiple providers, but then I'm giving it a specific configuration to that specific provider. On top of that, I am using a local model, which I'm going to be using with LLM Studio, which if you haven't heard of it, I would suggest you start looking into this. This is for you to be able to test local models that you can actually get from Hugging Face and other marketplaces. But in here, you can actually use LM Studio as a server to be able to call a local model and get different responses. You can actually search here. There's bunch of models, like I would say thousands of models that you can select from just to kind of test to see the different behaviors. But in this case, I'm just using one, which is Llama, just for the demo purposes here, okay? So going back to the providers, you have a local model provider, and then I have my commercial LLMs, which is OpenAI. Then I have Anthropic, all right? And then I'm giving it a temperature of 0.7. This one, I create another providers list, which with a temperature of 1, which is randomness. So imagine this where you want to test different scenarios with different token levels and all these different configurations, right? You want to have different files to be able to know what you're testing and, to be able to see the output. So I created these providers with temperature of 1 and 0.7. And again, this is just high level. There's many configurations, more advanced configurations that you can do, but this is just for you to get a good understanding. All right. And then if I go to my non-empathetic, which I'm going to go back to my non-empathetic system prompt, where I'm telling it, hey, you're a customer service assistant that is not empathetic and provides very short responses. Your guidelines is to keep all responses 1 to 2 sentences max, always maintain an inappropriately cheerful tone, never express sympathy or say sorry, treat all problems as exciting opportunities. So this is actually to replicate. So let's say this one, I got scammed. These are the templates. So this was actually to replicate the PayPal response, right? So I'm giving examples of responses. So I got scammed. What an exciting opportunity to learn about online security. My account got hacked. Wow. Now how thrilling to have a stranger explore your account. So it's like being funny, not funny. You could give it whatever behavior you want by explaining it and giving it context and specific examples, right? So again, this is just for this example, I use this prompt, which is a little bit more advanced than the other ones. So again, you can use something like this for you to test your own scenarios. And then for my non-empathetic test, I'm pretty much using the same example with the only difference that my type assertions are pretty much reverse, right? Where on the non-empathetic, I don't want it to contain sorry, understand, or help. I want it to contain exhilarating, thrilling, wow, great, awesome. To not contain, words like, hey, let's secure your account, or let's talk to support, or let's block, let's report, or let's protect, and things like that. So again, 2 different scenarios, 2 different assertions, and 2 different prompts to be able to test different behaviors that you want from your AI-based system, okay? And then for the configuration, you can see that there's 3 blocks, the same blocks that you saw on these other prompts, which, this looks a little bit dirty, not too clean. Here you can see exactly what you're testing, the type of prompts, the type of provider, the type of test. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just comment out my non-empathetic assistant, and I'm going to run it with my empathetic test, and I'm going to keep both providers. That's fine. So the way to run this, I'm going to make sure that I save everything. Save all, fine. All you have to do here is Promptfoo eval. Before I run this, just think of these as whenever you're automating and whenever you have a system where you can actually test multiple things, this is a time saver, right? You can actually put this into a CI/CD pipeline. You can actually, automate the whole process to not waste time and kind of focus on the right things. But imagine you doing this manually, going through all these different interfaces, typing all these prompts, testing all these different models. So just this task switching is going to make you waste a lot of time, and it's just tedious, right? What if they deploy another update for the model? What if they deploy another model? So all these different variables is what makes the job harder. So that's why you want to make sure that you have systems in place to be able to execute as many options and as many scenarios as possible to cover all the bases, okay? So if I do this, it's Promptfoo. So this is all great. This is our errors, and these are typos that you're going to do as well. So it's Promptfoo eval. So with the Promptfoo eval, what it's going to do, and I'm just going to show you here my local model. I'm just going to give it a second here. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do no cache. Because right now, as you can see, my responses from the previous run, they were cached. So I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that I get clear results. So I'm just gonna tell it to no cache, and then you're gonna see that for my local model is going to call LM Studio, which is for my Llama model. And as you can see, these answers are being, or the responses are getting generated, because it's hitting the model, and then it's coming back with the responses, and we're grabbing those responses to make sure that we're asserting the right information. Okay, so it's gonna take a little bit of time, just a few seconds. Just gonna let it do its job. But again, kind of showing you different things, that way you can start experimenting for yourself and seeing what's available. And again, this is just the beginning for me. I've been learning a lot for the past like 2 weeks. There's another training coming up this weekend, which I'm very excited about. And there's like few more other weekends left. And I'm just, mind blown so far of the information that I've learned so far. Okay. So now, as you can see here, you get a response, but it's not very clean and it's very hard to read. So, and this is on the terminal. So what you can do is you do Promptfoo view, right? And that's going to open up a browser with all the information. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. You just have to do yes here. And as you can see, you just tested 16 scenarios with different assertions to make sure that the behavior of your system is based on the requirements that you thought of or that you build it with, okay? This actually provides you a graph of the pass rates and all the stuff. You can actually see the type of model that was used in this case. You have Llama, GPT, and Claude, and then you have Llama again with the temperature of 1. And you have all these responses based on, whether you got scammed, with all these messages or variables that we use at the beginning, right? So you have, and you can actually dive deeper into what fell or didn't fail. So this one expected output to contain sorry. 2 of them. So it shows you the prompt. It actually shows you the output. And then you have the different assertions that happen on that model. Again, for this one specifically, contains sorry. Expected output to contain sorry, but in that case, it didn't. So I understand how upsetting it is. In this case, it acknowledged the user. It didn't use sorry. So we could always add other assertions to that specific step. So again, that's why it's good to review your outputs, review your failures, review your successes to make sure that the tests that you're writing are actually up to par and up to the acceptance criteria of the system. Okay. And this one, the same. So it fell for the same for Claude 3.5, temperature 1, and temperature 0.7. So that's no big deal. Again, those are things that always can be changed. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to walk you through the other one, which is the non-empathetic. So I'm commenting out my empathetic scenario, and then I'm commenting out my non-empathetic scenario, and I make sure that it is safe. And then I'm going to do the same thing. You do Promptfoo eval no cache to be able to clear the cache from my previous responses. And normally for that, it saves you money and things like that on the cache as part of it. But in this case, you want to make sure that you clear it. That way you get fresh responses from the actual models. All right. So let's just let it finish. This one probably already finished on the Llama, but you would have seen, the local model being called again. So as you can see, there is no cache. You'll see the same responses. You got three out of 18 scenarios. So if we take a look at the Promptfoo view, I want to review what failed, right? So again, you have your chart of what passed, what failed, the score, and then you can actually see and dive deep into the actual scenarios, the actual past failures and assertions. So even for the success, you want to make sure that you are checking the assertions for the past test, just to make sure that you have the right assertions in place. But let's say we take a look at the ones that are failing. So we have expected output to contain one of the following. And then it says phishing is so last season. Now you get to level up your cybersecurity game with a fresh new experience. So again, that's the expected answer that we wanted for this non-empathetic model or non-empathetic system prompt. But we just have to add other assertions to make sure that we catch the actual response so that it passes, right? So it didn't mention any of this. We still know that it responded the wrong way, but we want to make sure that, if, for reporting purposes, we want all these to pass to be 100%, okay? For this one specifically, it says expected output to not contain one of the following. So secure password. So let's say the response says, what an exciting chance to explore digital security. Secure. So we can actually add another value to the assertion. Like you can always do this. We go to non-empathetic, and then you go, instead of secure, you can actually add another security, right? To the actual values, right? To make sure that it's asserting for the right things. And then this one, I assume, is the same. It's just that even with the different temperature, it actually behaved the same way. So it's congratulations. So congratulations on your new online friend. This is an amazing chance to upgrade your password security skills. So as you can see here, it is kind of in line of what you want the user to do, but it's just too joyful and not empathic enough to kind of understand where the user is coming from. So you have security, which we already added to the test. I'm sure if I run it again, and let's just do that exercise. If I run it again, then we could potentially have other passes. But as you know, the models respond differently. It's not like the traditional testing where you have, the inputs and outputs. In this case, the outputs for the different models are going to be the same every single time. Even if we have like 10 testers here, every single tester is going to have similar responses, but not a unique one across the board. Okay, so that's why you want to make sure that you're testing for different variables and different things, just to make sure you see that. Wow. So in this case, you got a bunch of failures. Let's just run it again just to make sure. We are good. We have Promptfoo eval. Prompt. Promptfoo eval. No cache. So let's just let it finish. And that's what we have to do as testers, right? We want to make sure that we're testing different ways, different options. But in this case, I don't understand why it is failing more than before. So again, you just keep on investigating just to make sure. When I said opportunity about the online cybersecurity. So you have security. Yeah, maybe security with exclamation mark. Is throwing it off. You could always have assertions with regex and other things. So you want to make sure that you're actually accounting for all of them, right? So for the purpose of this specific demo, I'm not going to go over every single one of them. But again, this is a great example of the behavior of the models. You want to make sure that you have different assertion types. You want to make sure that you're testing several times. You want to make sure that you're testing different prompts. You want to make sure that you're testing different models. So again, this is part of the whole game. But imagine you doing this every single time manually. It'll be a pain. And I don't think you will be very happy when that happens. Okay. But with that said, again, I will have to look into this a little bit more just to make sure that everything is set up correctly, maybe add a different assertions. But for the purposes of this specific demo, I just wanted to kind of highlight the importance of software testing and to make sure that we don't have things like this go to production to provide a bad experience for your customers. All right. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Thank you.